Lest you're worried that we don't have testing, because testing is really, when I was saying this to Ben Dixon, testing is the only thing we can flatten the curve, and that's great. That means that our hospitals will be able to at least not be overrun by cases of COVID-19. But to actually go out and start to diminish the social distancing, we need to have another factor introduced, and that is testing. And once you test, you can say to 40%, 50% of the people, you're okay, you can go out. You can work these specific jobs. You can provide services for these people. Maybe it's not 40 or 50%. We don't know what the numbers are. And then, you go on to, do people have antibodies, antibody testing? And then you go on to, do people have some type of natural, is there some type of natural thing that some people exhibit, physical trait that keeps them from getting the worst case scenario, COVID-19? Is there a disparity between the strands of COVID-19? These are all things that hopefully we're going to find down the road. And then a year out, 18 months out, you're going to find hopefully a vaccine. You'll get people vaccinated. But we need testing. And we should have testing by now. The rest of the world has been using it. But I think the story is that we wanted to monetize it in this country. And here's Donald Trump at his press show yesterday, arguing that, we don't need testing.
It's because we have so many other tests and we don't even have to go through the laboratories. But the laboratories have tremendous additional capacity, and states feel free to use that capacity. Some in the media falsely reported this as a bad thing, when in fact it is a great thing, because it indicates that the states are moving to faster, more local testing solutions, including on-the-spot tests. So this drop in the utilization of commercial laboratories is an affirmation that testing, which is at an all-time high, is growing at a historic rate. In other words, the laboratories are great, but now we have forms of testing that are much quicker, much better, and we don't have to use the laboratories, but they're there, and they have a great capacity to do the work.
Don't you feel confident now, ladies and gentlemen, that Donald Trump looked at that testing information, what appears to be for the first time ever, during the course of reading out that prepared statement that somebody had written for him? The number of tests that are being performed at laboratories is actually going down. And supposedly it's because there is no one coordinating these laboratories to places where they need the tests. And there are shortages of testing apparatus, and there is no cohesive methodology for actually testing people. There's no cohesion. There's no planning here. The idea that states would have pre-existing apparatus to deal with a pandemic is absurd. It's absurd. That is why we had one on the national level. And it was completely eliminated by this administration, including John Bolton. This was a Republican project. Donald Trump does not have the brains or the awareness to say, the pandemic thing, I've always said that's a huge waste. This is a Republican project. Get rid of the waste in government. If we're not using the pandemic apparatus today, it's wasteful. We'll ramp it back up when and if. It probably won't happen. That's basically what we're dealing with. Here's Donald Trump pretending that we are doing more testing than South Korea. We may be, but not nearly from a percentage per capita basis. Here he is from that same White House show,
areas of our country that have been hot spots have done much more testing on a per capita basis than South Korea. We've done more than South Korea, and South Korea has done a good job, but we've done more.
You see how he narrows it to hotspot? If we take the pool of people that we're talking about and make it small enough, then on a per capita basis, we're doing more testing than North Korea. And for instance, let's say I had a one test available to me, and I say, on a per capita basis, I'm testing more than North Korea. You know, if you base it upon all the people in this attic I'm sitting in. I'm doing a 1-to-1 testing ratio. No country has done that. We're really doing great things here. There's nobody driving this bus, ladies and gentlemen. That's the problem. Here is Donald Trump now trying to, and again, I think like the clock is ticking on his ability to get away with this. We just heard from Kowalski in Grand Island, Nebraska. There are places you can shut down Omaha, you can shut down Lincoln. They don't have the density of a city like New York. But when you do have areas where there is some type of density, like at a meatpacking plant, you're going to have problems. Here's Donald Trump. He's at his press show that he puts on every day. A reporter asks him why you want to reopen the country without widespread testing. And here's Donald Trump explaining why you want to do that.
You mentioned I think you used the term clear scientific benchmarks on testing. And the main periscope that I think you guys are talking about is the ILL syndromic as well as the surveillance and the sentinel testing. Yeah. Are you opening things up then without doing...
All right, can I just do a little reality check? You see how Donald Trump is nodding his head while the reporter is talking about the different standards of testing? And Trump is just pretending that he knows anything that this guy is saying. Go back. It's funny. I wish we could.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't all about access, that you could just, someone could go in there, make up test names and then be like, yeah, of course. And just like, no, those aren't real tests.
Right. Or if the reporter just stopped and said, do you know what I'm talking about? And he goes, yes, of course. No, I mean, specifically, can you tell me what I'm talking about? That's my question. Can you tell me what I'm talking about? Go ahead.
The term clear scientific benchmarks on testing. And the main periscope that I think you guys are talking about is the ILL syndromic as well as the surveillance and the sentinel testing. Are you opening things up then without doing, I just want to be clear, are you opening things up without doing widespread testing? Is that because you don't have the capacity or you don't think it's necessary?
You do have the capacity, but you have states without any problem. You have states with few cases, and those few cases have healed. You have states with very little death, relatively speaking. As I said, one is too many, but you have states with very little, and frankly, they're at a point where they have almost nothing. So this is a much different case than a New York or New Jersey, where they're going through, frankly, they go through hell. And if you look at New York, I'm looking at bed count, because you have to look at bed count, and it's really dropped. We built the Javits Center with 2,900 beds, and it was... I mean, they built it in 4 days. They did an incredible job, the Army Corps of Engineers. It was not used very much. We sent the hospital ship in to New York Harbor, and it was not used. Then we went COVID, and it still was not used very much because the bed count has gone way down, way down.
When do you see yourself getting back to campaigning? I mean,
this is not campaigning. I want to make the country better. I don't care about campaigning. This is about making our country better. I think this team has been incredible.
The idea that he knows any of what he's talking about there, that quote sounded almost identical to the one that he gave like in early February when it's like, we get 15 cases. They're mostly healed by now. If they start opening things up in a widespread manner, we're just going to be right back to where we were on March 13th within, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks. maybe 8 weeks. It's just a matter of time. You need to have at least testing so that you have a sense of what the risk is, who are potential, who is potentially exposed, who can you send into certain areas to do some of the work and not have to worry that they're going around like Typhoid Mary. I mean, that's that's what you need. And the idea that there's very little death there, so we can fix that.